The US has welcomed news that Israel will allow 3 humanitarian corridors into Gaza following a phone call between President Biden and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. For the first time since the start of the Israel-Gaza war, Israel will temporarily reopen the Erez crossing in northern Gaza. Ashdod Port will also be opened for humanitarian deliveries, and more aid trucks from Jordan will be allowed to cross Israel to Gaza. The call between Mr. Biden and Mr. Netanyahu was their first since an Israeli airstrike killed 7 international aid workers from the charity group World Central Kitchen, sparking international outrage. The White House is urging Israel to allow a dramatic increase of aid into Gaza within hours or days. Sean Dilley reports.
In the heart of the White House, a phone call with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and a clear message from the US President that his patience is running low. Joe Biden told his counterpart that Israel must do more immediately to protect civilians and aid workers in Gaza if he wants American support to continue. It's no secret that tensions between the two leaders have been bubbling for some time, but the US is Israel's most powerful ally. In his hardest criticism yet, Joe Biden called the growing humanitarian crisis unacceptable and said he expects Mr. Netanyahu to take steps towards an immediate ceasefire.
The president made it clear that our policies with respect to Gaza will be dependent upon our assessment of how well the Israelis make changes and implement changes to make the situation in Gaza better for the Palestinian people.
And how much time are you giving them to make these changes, to implement these concrete steps?
Again, we would hope to see some announcements of changes here in coming hours and days.
A clear message, and one Israel's been quick to hear. Within hours, Israel said it had approved more humanitarian routes to increase aid to Gaza. The Erez Gate in northern Gaza will be temporarily opened for the first time since the start of the war. More aid from Jordan will enter through the Kerem Shalom Crossing. This was the two leaders' first call since 7 aid workers were killed in an Israeli airstrike on Monday. Among the dead, 3 British citizens working to distribute food. Israel said their deaths were a tragic mistake. For the families of the dead, it's a claim they don't accept.
They were in a deconflicted zone, controlled by the IDF. They were following all the rules and procedures Israel, which are very strict, Israel laid out. The World Central Kitchen has never lost a staff person since they opened their doors. So he felt reasonably confident that he could accomplish the mission safely. I grew up without having a father. And now my grandson will grow up without having his father.
The United Nations said 500 aid trucks would be needed every day to support civilians in Gaza. Right now, though, any progress is being welcomed by those who desperately need food, water and medicine. Sean Dilley, BBC News.
Well, let's get more on events in the Middle East and speak to our correspondent in Jerusalem. Yolande Nell is standing by for us. Hi, Yolande, good to see you. Let's start with that phone call between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu, the first since the deaths of the 7 international aid workers on Monday. Tell us more about what happened in that call.
Well, this was a stark warning, really, from President Biden to Israel, its close ally, that really it was prepared to make changes in its policies towards Israel if Israel didn't change its conduct of the war and didn't do more to protect civilians in Gaza and also aid workers. And I think often in the past we have seen relatively little change after these kinds of problems have bubbled up between the US and Israel. It's very telling that this time what we've seen within hours is a meeting of Israel's Security Cabinet and what we're told are immediate steps being announced to increase the amount of aid going into Gaza. And they are actually things that have been asked for repeatedly by aid agencies, by international diplomats. So Israel has said that it's going now to open up the Erez crossing in the very north of the Gaza Strip. This has for years been the main crossing point for people to go in and out of Gaza, controlled by Israel. It's the location where we've, of course, been in and out in the past as journalists when we were allowed to access Gaza. It's also going to mean that the Ashdod Port, which is only about 20 miles along the coast from the north of the Gaza Strip, that is going to be used to process more shipments. Up to now, it's had very limited use for aid going into Gaza, and it's something that could really make a big difference, particularly in conjunction with using the Erez crossing to get into the north of Gaza, where we've been told by the UN that famine is looming largest. And there'll also be steps taken, I'm told, to have much more going in along the Jordanian land corridor, which links up with the Kerem Shalom Crossing in the south of the Gaza Strip.
And Yolande, do we know how soon any of this could happen?
Well, they have been talking about this happening imminently. We haven't got precise timings. We haven't got details yet of the quantities of aid that will be involved, or what kind of details there might be when it comes to Israeli security checks that will be demanded. But the US has said it welcomes the announcement by Israel, but it will be watching really to assess what difference this makes.
Yolande in Jerusalem, thank you.